All right, many thanks, Ibrahim Bello Bunda, for that background report. And to begin our conversation on the 2025 social investment programs, let me welcome here in the studio Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me.
And it's the first since your change of portfolio, so we congratulate you as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, also joining us for the conversation, but via Zoom all the way from Lagos, is Engineer Umar Binder, Social Investment Specialist, founder and CEO, Binder Knowledge Center International, Yola, in Adamawa State, and is also a national coordinator, was the national coordinator of NSIP from 2020 to 2023. Also a former SSG Adamawa State. It's a long list. Many thanks for joining us, Engineer Binder.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you again.
Thank you. And let's begin from here in the studio, Honorable Minister. It's 2025. The year is still very much young. What's in the offing as far as social investment programs is concerned for 2025? And where are we in bringing them to fruition?
Well, thank you very much for having me this morning. Once more, I want to thank the entire management of NTA for being there for us all the time, providing a platform that we can reach Nigerians, so that Nigerians will be aware of what's happening within the government, and that will help us in mobilizing support, disabuse information that are wrongly circulated, most especially with the advent of social media, and clarify some issues so that Nigerians can be carried along in the governance of the country. And I think that's the will of Mr. President, to make sure that every Nigerian is informed of the happenings, so that we can all be proud that the government is moving in the same direction in alignment with people. Well, your question is really very, very valid. What do we have for 2025? Well, for us as a ministry, the major issue we have in the 2025, even before giving out the programs that we are expected to do, is to restore the confidence of average Nigerian and international community in the happenings of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. We know that since its inception and in the last few years back, and even of recent, the ministry has suffered a lot of image problem that led to the president to suspend all the activities and even to bring total reformation in terms of bringing virtually different people to run out the affairs. For instance, there is a remarkable change in the ministry. Well, before it used to be a single minister in the ministry. Right now we have the minister and the Minister of State, which we think is also a great challenge for us to work to ensure that we report the confidence of Mr. President in us. And then secondly, if you look at even the major vehicle that we are going to use in reaching out to people, the National Social Investment Program Agency is also manned by new people. Following what happened, the national coordinator is new, and all the four program managers for the outlet of the NCPA are also new. And for us, we met a team constituted by President that are vibrant, young, agile, and with much critical thinking. So we think with our own direction to give leadership, we'll be able to restore the confidence of average Nigerian in ensuring there is accountability and there is transparency, which was initially lacking. For instance, transparency is the fact that it will be done. People will know right from the way we are going to update our register that we are going to soon start, and also to expand the scope. People will know that their enumerators and the enrollment were with them, and it has been done. It will be done. Accountability in such that whatever social intervention we are going to give, it should be able to say that, yes, I've been to Yenagua and I've intervened and touched life of 5,000 people, for instance. I should be able to have documented evidence that even at your doorstep, we can check it and confirm. And even if you ask the neighborhood where it was done, you will know that it has been done. Unlike what it is before, that you can come and just give money without proper documentation. You can claim after giving 50 people that you have given to 500 or 5,000 people, and it cannot be verified. So, and these are this, and so that's why we now have a guiding principle coming from the CBN and the presidency, except that we must have a digital identity for every beneficiary that will be in both our two registers that we have majorly. That is the National Safety Social Investment Register and also the Beneficiary Register. Because the register we have the whole one is that will contain all those people who are qualified to be in that register. And then out of them, you gradually are picking and you are developing another register for those who have benefited. So that I say, okay, this is our registrar of those who require social services. And then out of those, we have also captured and touched the life of so million, which we can verify. And in that social identity, what we have right now, we have over 19,500,000 in the social register of the country. Okay. But unfortunately, when it started, about 5 million have their first and second tranches of 25,000 that is supposed to be given in 3 installments, making it 75,000. But when it happened, that they realized that the actual verification of those who benefited become difficult. And what makes it difficult? There is no digital identity in terms of getting their BBN, in terms of getting their NIN, and also in terms of getting their account number. So any name can be there, and you can claim that you have given. So that's the directive now we should quickly. And as of today, we are working seriously, and Nigeria, that's our beginning point to validate the register, to expand its scope, and also to ensure that it's transparently generated, carrying the state and everybody along. And that's why in each of the states we have state coordinators who are working together with now to ensure we have this. And once we have done that, now already I said there are 5 million that have been reached. Out of this 5 million, it's only 1.4 million of them that have their own digital identity. So those that, the other ones, that's almost 3.6 that didn't have identity. They couldn't complete their second and third tranches. So in this regard, we have to ensure that we started with them, we validate them, get them their digital identity, and then we pay them off, and then we also go and get more people that from the register that we are going to this. So once we have that, I want to show you that a lot of social projects that have been put in place will now be in for. What are those projects? We have the Empower that Mr. President is keen about, and that's also going to serve as our yardstick for trying to reach out the 2 million youth that the President is anticipating and is willing to reach in terms of creating job opportunity for them. And then that Empower will be now. We know that we have some backlog, and that is this President has already granted approval that those backlogs should be settled. And as very soon we are working to ensure that we've settled those. That settlement will also add value to our economy, will add value to the face of Nigeria, and will leave a lot of this. Because we are talking a huge sum of almost 81 billion that will be paid to those who have been owned following the suspension of the program. And that will really touch life, and more people, more recruitment will be done so that we can expand the scope also. And then we are also bringing another innovation in our Empower program to see how can we link it directly to the market through industry and this thing. So that we are going to collaborate with major companies in the country to see if we are training you as a automobile designer or automobile mechanic and other design. How do we get you to major importers, to major manufacturers of automobile? That, for instance, now we have the GAG Motors in Nigeria, which is they are assembling their design, and they have a lot of outlets now. People are selling, but servicing, in terms of reaching access, because they are just coming in, is very, very limited. So how can we link those who are trained in automobile to serve as their outlet in various states that can now work for them in terms of there is need for their distance? And this, we have already initiated discussion with them and many other automobile companies that we are going to work with them so that they can train, and then after training they can also make an uptake of those who have trained. That's this, and also in terms of school, there are many this where we go, we see how we can improve the capacity And those capacity of those that will work in our education, we'll see how we can liaise with state government, private organization. How can the terms of training we are going to give, how can they be absorbed? This and so the Empower will really come and is coming a better home. And then luckily for us, we also have a low-hanging fruit. As of today, we have over 42, I think, warehouses widely spread in the country, and that warehouses have already have a capacity to train 110,000 Nigerians in terms of bureau skill, agriculture, plumbing, what have you. And right now, we have already, following the approval by Mr. President, we have consulted a committee. This purchase was almost, I think, almost in 4 or 5 years back. So we have sent in, we have consulted a committee that very soon, in the next few days, we'll go around to take inventory of what do we have really. This is because, unfortunately, during the national protests that happened, the one in Adamawa was vandalized, and then very unfortunately, 2 here in Abuja some few months back, which you have also reported. One of our warehouse in Idu industrial area got burnt down by fire. So, and we want also the stock taking will also give us to see how can we rationalize this thing, because they are not this so that we can see how we can rationalize and come up with objective training work plan that we can now work and unify it nationwide. This is one of the still in that even at our own level sorry, let me finish with the NCPA before I come back to the ministry. Government enterprise and the empowerment program will also come into being. This is also a way of reaching out to people so that we can improve their capacity to handle their businesses and also to make more profit and contribute to the GDP of Nigeria. And then this is where we now come to see how we can now come up with the both trader money, farmer money, and this other money program that we can now make it to be so effective. And you can be this is also a form of loan that will be given, but it's also non-collateral and then non-interest loan. But people must understand that this is loan, and once you agree it's a loan, it will be repaid back. And then we'll develop a mechanism that we can ensure that there is access and there is also repayment back after the this. And then I've mentioned earlier we have the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office that is responsible for generating all the registrar we have. That's also we are working rightly now. We are expanding the outlet to ensure that in the next few weeks, as directed by Mr. President, a lot of Nigerian are reached, verification is completed, and also most scope of it is taken so that we can begin to give out the support as directed by the President. So many things is being expected, but all we want to say is that we are aware that Mr. President is working hard to ensure that there are 2 major issues, or 3 major issues now for facing Nigeria. One is the global economic crisis that everybody knows, not only exclusive to Nigeria. World are in global economic crisis. If you go to UK, if you go to US, if you go to many countries now, that's global economic crisis. And we also have our local addition. And also there are some reforms that is being done by the President. Today it may be hard and harsh, but that will make our president tomorrow better. And you know, as a medical doctor, I quite agree. If you have a fracture and you want to set it, you definitely inflict pain while setting that fracture. But you must endure that pain so that you can restore the function and normality of that bone you are trying to reset. So that's why sometimes, almost all the time, to reduce the pain, we have to apply anesthesia. So even the reforms here, Mr. President has made it really clear that it's not going to be without some pains. And but he implores us to be very, very understanding and see how we can mitigate everything. And that is where now the importance of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reductions comes in, so that it can provide effective buffer that will serve as the anesthesia of bone resetting, so that Nigerians can have a cushion effect of the reform that will be more effective and be tolerated by Nigerians.
There's more time, for you to tell us more. You have actually given us in details what the ministry is doing and the plans for 2025. Beautiful. We'll pause you now. Let's get to Engineer Umar Binder. Some very important remarks by the Honorable Minister. He talked about restoring the confidence of the average Nigerian on the ministry. He talked about accountability and transparency, and just before he rounded off, he talked about the ministry serving as a buffer, if you like, giving anesthesia to the current challenges of Nigerians. But you see, a lot of people, would ask if the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs has actually been able to meet its mandate of lifting people out of poverty. Because if you check the figures, more people are being plunged into poverty on a daily basis. The figure shows that from 2020 to 2024, the ministry got 2.3 trillion naira. Engineer Binder, having listened to the Honorable Minister, do you think that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs has what it takes, really, to improve the lives of Nigerians?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you again. And let me also take the opportunity to congratulate my brother to have been reassigned to a very important and large ministry as a Minister of State. I wish you all the best, sir. Now, you see, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, or Poverty Reduction, as the Minister put it, is a very, very important ministry in our country. Why? Because poverty has always been a problem for Nigeria. And as I always say, three critical things, very critical things, are affecting the development of this country. Corruption is, as part of indiscipline, is affecting us. Insecurity is affecting us. And most importantly, the poverty is very high. And this poverty, it's not just poverty like the Honorable Minister has 2 cars and I have 1 car. No, this is absolute poverty. This is affected people who don't have clean water to drink. Their houses are not very good. Their food is not good. Many children are not going to school, and so on and so forth. So it's a very important, very big ministry, very strategic. And therefore, it also must act very strategically. Now, the ministry is big. The Honorable Minister, well, the discussion is concentrating on the social investment program, and now they have an agency. But the ministry has like 8 to 9 agencies attached to it, including the Refugee Commission. Even Northeast Development Commission used to be part of that ministry. It has been moved now, and so on and so forth. So, regarding the social investment program, it's a very, very well articulated package, initially running under His Excellency the Vice President during the Buhari regime. And it has 4 very critical clusters, not necessarily programs, clusters, because cluster is a ball that has other bits and pieces attached to it, and it has chances to expand, And the very first...
Looks like we've lost connection with Engineer Umar Binder. We hope that will get better, so we can get his perspectives. But I'd like to return to the Honorable Minister. When you spoke, you talked about some initiatives. You talked about the register, and which, of course, we know that register is for those who are being handed cash, whatever amount that it is. And you just talked about the trader money, the farmer money, and all of that. All of this is, in the bid to give money, irrespective of the amount, to different Nigerians. A lot of people who criticize the National Social Investment Program would criticize that aspect of handing out cash, to Nigerians, asking if that really, meets the needs, or if it actually solves the problem of poverty. In the past, it used to be around, say, 30,000, 20,000, and all of that. Is the ministry, thinking of continuing? Anyways, you already said that. But looking at the criticism as regards handing out cash, do you think that it will meet its objective one day?
Well, let me just say that, you see, I'm a medical doctor. You see, in practice, there is what we call shock. And when you are in shock, you must give anti-shock. And then after you give anti-shock, you now begin to stabilize. And when you begin, after stabilization, you monitor and then you finally discharge. So in social management, it's also the same criteria. People will come in shock. You understand? You must give them what will take that immediate concern as at that time. While they are in the register, you now begin to see how can you stabilize them. And then how you stabilize them, how do you exit them out of that register? You see, that's why if you look at even the act that established NSPA, it comes up with criteria of who is supposed to be in the register. You understand? You must be poor, you must be vulnerable, and must be different way of confirming really you are poor and you are vulnerable. In the event you lie that you are poor while you are not, there is a sanction. Two major sanctions. You refund what you have obtained, plus or minus 6 months imprisonment. So that to ensure that not everybody will just come. While you are self-sustained, you have your job doing, you are doing everything, because they come to enroll people, you just giving your name or your family so that this.
But what are the criteria for determining who is poor?
The determining factors were in any social register that you are going to constitute. Worldwide, there are procedures, and even in Nigeria, that's what is followed. We come to a community of, let's say, 100 people. You ask people, one after the other, who is the most poorest person in this environment? They will mention name. They will mention family. You understand? That's how you know. Okay, who is next? That's how you know this. As they are mentioning, you are this. You are getting their data and you are capturing. So by the time you finish, you have all those that are poor and who are vulnerable. Vulnerable groups are already defined. Pregnant women, widows, people with disability, children, and many of those who are unemployed. These are vulnerable groups that can easily be tilted toward marked poverty, or also toward what may even be detrimental to this country. Because if one is poor, he lacks what to take in the morning, he can easily be used by miscreants to cause chaos and further perpetuate poverty. So you understand there are that criteria. And now when you are in the register, we now move to another stage, which we are also working seriously, to provide a durable solution. Because you cannot remain there permanently. You understand? If we allow people to remain now, it will be negative to the country. Because people will develop overdependence on the system. They cannot go out to work because they are sure that they will be provided, for instance. You understand? So you, even world over, no country has people that will remain permanently in social register because of the negative consequences of overdependence. Now, what are those durable solutions? That's now where we think we work hard to see how can we empower people. And what we have mentioned earlier in terms of creating a business that will be provide an avenue for first self-sustenance and ability to carry the family. Because when you are talking of social investment, you are talking of the household. You are not talking about independent, most of the household. And that household, in a household, you have up to 5 people that are registered under that household. So you see how you can provide them with enabling this. Let me take, for instance, yes, he has mentioned the internally displaced person and many other groups. Yes, for instance, we have some of the durable solutions that we have started with those who are in internally displaced camp. Is to have an MOU between the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, National Commission for Refugee, Migrant and Internally Displaced Persons, NALDA, and Federal Ministry of Agriculture to co-opt them into a cluster groups that are trained through their cooperation of the host community to provide a massive land that can be cultivated by the internally displaced person in conjunction with the agencies I mentioned earlier. And then once it is done, after harvest, we came in with a formula. 30% of all that have been produced will remain to be used by the internally displaced person that are distant. The 70% will be taken by the government as a cash component, so that will also be paid to the clusters that participated in the agric which will now, they will now use it, they have the food, they will now do it to do some business, to also use it to provide other ingredients that will make them to prepare a food that can be consumed by the family. And that has been very, very successful. The minister was in Borno, which has flagged up the harvesting of rice, maize, beans, and this thing. And I was also in Jos, which we did the same thing in terms of this thing. And this is going to be a durable solution. And our other durable solution that we are moving towards, we have potential of renewable energy. And this renewable energy are what can be utilized. For instance, now, as part of our eradication of poverty measures, we have market women who are into fish and fish processing. You understand? So if you want to assist those people, you must improve their way of preserving and also preparing their fish in terms of providing dryer for them, solar refrigerators that can be used to store so that avoid wastage, and many other things, even perishable items like tomatoes, and this can be done. Now, in our durable solution, there are a group of youth that we are recruiting to train them on solar energy installation and this. So we train them, and when we need to go for those market women to provide those items to them, these same people that were trained will now serve it as a practical session to go and make this thing under supervision to ensure that they can do it practically. And when we are certain that they are out, we now exited them through a starter pack that will allow them to now go into full-scale business that they will now do under this thing. So also in terms of agriculture, we are looking at this thing. We are looking for youth, even wherever they are, as part of our durable solution, to see how can we introduce different various agricultures. For example, now if you go to North Central somewhere like those and many other places, green agriculture, in terms of using greenhouses, is one of the fastest now means of making money. And we're going into that to see how much can we produce in different parts of areas that the weather and condition can allow for green agriculture to thrive there, so that we can get you involved in there and engage in that.
All right,
Look at just last year, the issue we have when you have 3 or 4 tomatoes costing almost 1,000 or 500 when we had that crisis. So these are areas that potential areas that we can go and improve our sustainability. I mentioned solar energy, I mentioned automobile, and we are also going into many different skills. And in fact, the act that established NSPA mandated them to also have skill acquisition centers so that they can train in terms of eradication poverty. So that all those people that are there, once you are there, you are not going to remain there permanently. We'll continue with our durable solution. And when you are fit to go out, we'll give you the starter pack that you can go and establish yourself.
All right, fantastic. Many thanks, Honorable Minister Dr. Sununu. Good to know that the social register is not a permanent thing, so there will be different phases to that. But let's get back to Engineer Umar Binderi now. I hope your connection is much better. I would like you to land on your previous thoughts as regards the question that was asked earlier, and of course your response to the minister's comments of how those on the register would be moved out just so that they can live life better.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just informing you on the very, very strategic and professional way that the social investment program was designed. And it was designed on a foundation of 4 clusters, clusters that had privileges and opportunities to expand very, very technically and professionally. And these 4 clusters are very, very well integrated so that you can measure whether you are conquering poverty or not. And I was telling you that the first cluster is this conditional cash transfer that was very, very strong. And you see, the social investment program was designed very well with the law, with care. If you're not careful in injecting new programs or creating new reforms, you will start duplicating the function of other agencies. NDE is there, they have a mandate. SMEDAN is there, they have a mandate. ITF is there, they have a mandate. Bank of Agriculture is there, and so on and so forth. There are many. And if you want to know more, go and read the Orosanye Committee. You will see how very easily you can start picking easy things to do, and then you start duplicating other people's functions, and then there will be chaos. So this cash transfer was designed to target very poor and vulnerable people in households. So this social register that a lot of people talk thinking that it is data of individuals. No. The first social register, national social register, is register of houses. And these houses were not selected randomly. So I tend to disagree a little bit with the Honorable Minister. Maybe he was not very well briefed that there was no data, things were done randomly. No, sir. social register was generated in the states by the state people, not by, it's national. It's not a federal social register. It's a national social register. Every state in this country has an office called SOCO, and it's a coordinating unit, and it has also a cash transfer office. The people who work in this office are civil servants of that state, and every activity of this social register was coordinated by the Ministry of Planning of that state. So it is them that actually generate this register, and this generation of the register was guided by a very high level World Bank system, you know, because they were partly funding it. Anyway, so this social register registers poor and vulnerable households, and it has over 200 indices that were used. Whether this house is only a widow that is head, whether the husband has died, whether there are children who are out of school, whether there is a blind or disabled person, and so on and so forth, before a register is generated. So there is nothing like asking people questions. Are you poor and vulnerable? No, 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 no. It was very technical, and it's done by the people in the chiefs, the youth groups, the women groups, the NGOs operating in the areas. These are the committees that actually decide. And when each state has their own register, they send the data to the center, and that is how you create the National Social Register. So the federal government has absolutely nothing to do with generating this. Now, the strategy at that time was pay each household 5,000 naira monthly, and every 2 months, you see that we pay 10,000. And the reason why we chose the cycle of two months is because the logistics of doing this thing is very, very difficult. And imagine every household will have what we call a caregiver. The head of the household will now be the person who will stand in the queue to collect the 5,000 naira on behalf of the household. So this is how it was done. And the target up to the time we left was 2 million households under the, as the minister correctly was saying, is a beneficiary register. So under the big social register, they mine, and then they also re-verify and then pay. Now, this money that is 5,000, a lot of people query that, oh, it is just a waste of money, giving people anyhow. No. We have seen indices where women, the caregivers, in communities, using this 5,000 naira, part of it, to buy groundnut to extract oil, to make dawa in the communities, to extract oil, palm oil out of their small farm outputs, to ensure that they are buying simplistic inputs and growing their community. We've seen indices whereby communities have come together based on the proceeds from this 5,000 that has become 10,000, that has become 12,000, to build classrooms in their communities, to expand their schools. We've seen where communities have actually gathered to buy vehicles to serve as ambulances, where there were no ambulances before. So it was actually getting better and better. Yes, initially when it started, we were paying cash. But certainly programs of social nature, you evolve if you're professionally studying it and monitoring it and seeing. But by the time we left, literally all caregivers had bank accounts. In fact, when the central bank deployed the Naira, the social investment program gave CBN the largest number of people with bank accounts, to the extent that we were congratulated by CBN. But anyway, so after this cluster that has everything to do with cash transfer, it evolved a little bit. There was even what we call as the one single grant to rural women that emerged, 20,000 naira, and women were selected very carefully, and only women, purely women, and then they were given. We have seen an explosion of businesses. So this was working, and the data is there, and if you go to the NASCO office, the data is very clear. The second cluster, N-Power, is very, very important too. This targets both its youth, graduates who are graduates of tertiary institutions, graduates of secondary school, and then also totally people that have not gone to. There are three. One is the graduate program. Now let me tell you the difficulty with this, because we started by the allocation of 30-something billion naira to the NSRP to trigger this. I don't know how it's happening now. But graduates were paid 30,000 naira stipend per month based on the minimum wage. Now, we were doing 1 million graduates. That means 30 billion naira every month. You get what I mean? In 10 months, that 300 billion naira they don't have 300 anyway. That if in 1 month, that 30 billion will finish, you know. And now the minimum wage is 70,000. So I don't know whether we are going to maintain the 30,000 or we are going to jump to 70,000. If you jump to 70,000 minimum wage, you are 1 million only, and you have 25 to 30 million graduates on the streets of Nigeria. 1 million. The stipend will be 70 billion naira monthly. It's very, very expensive. Therefore, you have to be very, very strategic. So the criteria for selection, nobody was selecting anybody. It was a portal. You go and register, you put your documents, you put all the details. It is through the computing process that we filter this. So the data of NPower is intact. You can see the person, his account number, how many times he has been paid, whether he's working or not, very clearly digitally. Now, imagine if you have a poor household under the conditional cash transfer, and there was a poor child who graduated from Polytechnic. He was just farming with his father. And then you bring NPower, it identifies him. He is now attached to NPower. He's teaching in the primary school in that community. When you put these two together, so that young man has an income of 30,000, his household, they have a grant of 5,000, and gradually that is what is going to spur, maybe by the time you review the National Social Register, that house will actually graduate because things are happening there. So there are many activities under the NPower. Is very limited time. You jump to another very, very important cluster, which is the school feeding program. The school feeding program, we were doing 10 million. First, it was at 70 naira per meal. The President Buhari then increased it to 100 naira. Let me tell you, we were doing 10 million. We were doing 10 million, and at the 100 naira, it is a bill of 1 billion naira every single month. You get what I mean? And I can tell you all the schools, with the number of children in the schools, the data is there, totally well documented, and it's generated by the states. And the final is the JIP. Now the JIP, to target the poor and vulnerable, that's why you have the farmer money, the little people who are farming, not the big farmers, little people who are farming in the communities, the trader money, these market people who are selling and buying, and then you have the trader money, people who are trading. Now, if you, I saw in the media, I don't know whether it's correct, that you are going to give 300,000 and then into cooperative societies. 300,000 naira in cooperative of 20, you multiply that, divide that by the 30 billion you have, you probably will see that every state will have only 7 beneficiaries. So this whole program is very expensive. It needs, I agree with the Honorable Minister, very serious technical people who are positive, who are data-oriented, who are analytical, who are constant, and you must link yourself with the state government very, very solidly. We used to have focal persons appointed by the governor. They have the same structure at the state, a program manager for school feeding, a program manager for GIP, a program manager for NPower, and then you have the credit cash transfer system. These people we regularly check, and that is why we have a very strong monitor and evaluation cluster too, headed by one fantastic Dr. Fatia. You know, we had independent monitors. These are people hired independently. They can say anything they like, including NGOs. So when you...
Dr. Bindri, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your intervention so far. I see the Honorable Minister trying to make clarifications.
Yes, I wanted to make clarification. All he has said, yes, is true. We all work with state through the state coordinators and various agencies I've mentioned. But when it comes to the issue of register, where we differ, and that's correct, is that the current register we have, we are not saying it doesn't exist. It doesn't have digital identity, or identity that you can use to confirm that beneficiaries have actually this thing. And that's also now the CBN has said that, okay, of all the 19.5 million households he has mentioned, you understand, 5 million were initially extracted to benefit from the first tranche, which is going to be on 3 different this thing. Now for the first tranche, all of them have gotten, but when it comes down to the issue of digital identity came, and then 1.4 of the 5 million are the one that have digital identity. Now, if you have the 19.5 million people that are in the household that are in the register. When you remove 1.4, almost 18.1 do not have digital identity. You understand? So what we are doing now is to see that those we are starting. I'm not saying it's the same registrar that has been done, but what we are doing now is to add it, upscale it by adding digital identity. So those 5.55 that have started getting their tranches, of 1.4 that have this, we have the remaining 3.6 now. We want to ensure that they have their own digital identity so that they also can be paid like the other ones were paid.
All right, Honorable
So
Minister,
that's the clarification.
You know, talking about the register, you know, when Dr. Binder was talking and talking about how detailed it was and how, you know, the names, so if you like, the contacts of those who are benefiting from, you know, the NSIP, you know, came about, then, you know, the next question, of course, would be why the impact of that program was not largely felt. For the N-Power, he talked about the N-Power, talked about the fact that these are graduates and all that. But we also know, and we saw in the media, that some of these people in the N-Power program also had other jobs they were doing, and some were not, you know, as committed, you know, to the federal government on the N-Power program as much as they were with the jobs that we're doing. But you see, you would respond to that. But let's talk about the school feeding program. You know, that's another issue, and you know, a lot of Nigerians raised concerns about the program. We saw that the quality of food being served to children in different schools were you know, was dependent on who the caterer was, or if you like, the consultant was that, you know, was providing the food. We also saw that in some parts of the country, yes, it improved the number of children in school, but infrastructure was lacking. And so, I mean, children just went to school because of the food, not necessarily to learn. So, I mean, the aim of the program, just help us understand how that program is going to get better in 2025.
Well, you see, yes, enrollment is part of the benefit of National Homegrown School Feeding Program, but it also have other advantage. There are 3 major clusters in that: the farmers, the students who are in primary 1 to 3, and also the cooks. And we also have aggregators, and we have many other people that put eyes to ensure that there is quality. You understand? So, in terms of quantity or quality of the food too, well, you've mentioned that it's 100 per child. And that's why currently we are looking at review. Now, if you want a child to have a meal that contains an egg in it, just for him to have a better nutritional status, it means 100 naira cannot do that. How much is a boiled egg now in the market? Almost 100 naira.
100 naira? No, way more than that, Honorable Minister.
So you understand?
It's 300.
A crate of egg is about 6,000 naira.
Yes,
so one egg is about 200.
A crate is 30. When you buy 30 by
200-300 naira, that's what it is.
So you see, you understand. So what I'm just trying to say is that the quality may be affected by the amount, and that's why all those will now be reviewed. That's one. 2, you see, in terms of all these selections and this, people tend to push blame always to the federal government, and that's why we mentioned we have state coordinating office who coordinate the program of NSBA in their state. And they are the ones to generate all those, you understand? But we have to ensure quality assurance. We must ensure that it's done to this. And then it's not just only for the enrollment I mentioned before. Yes, it's a school feeding program. There is no argument worldwide. In countries that practice it, it improves the enrollment rate. It also improves the retention rate in the school. It's also further improves their completion rate, and finally the progression rate at tertiary or secondary level of education is also improved.
But the missing link in Nigeria is the fact that when you get more children enrolled in these schools, there are no facilities, adequate infrastructure in terms of classrooms, teaching aids, teachers, to ensure that the children are not just there for the food, but they get impacted with the education, which is the main focus of that program. Not necessarily the feeding is an incentive.
You see, governance is a holistic approach. and no ministry on its own can do it alone. Ours is a collaboration, for instance. And then whether you want to fault everything, I think Mr. President deserves commendation as far as education is concerned. Last year, it was next to security in terms of budget. And today, capital project, which include provision of all those instructional materials and many other that you are talking, education have a budget of almost 3.5 trillion. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria. While we are also complementing on our own. You understand? And then there are other programs that will still make students to get better. Just in the next few weeks or months to come, Ministry of Education will launch Hope Education. We already have a Hope Governance and Hope Health, which is trying to link directly the primary health care attainment and the provision of education in a one DC. And this is, we are talking of a project of almost 1.5 billion. Health Hope Education on its own will cost 500 million US dollars. So we think with all this funding and a lot of issues, and then by and large, you also understand, this we are now talking at the level of the federal government. And this is what I mentioned earlier, that there is always that tendency to push blame to the federal government because it is the mother of all. In the house that they say, Babaju Jini, that's the bigger man. It's just like a dustbin. Everybody will bring and blame him. But you have to also know that when you are talking of level of education, in terms of basic education, which involve the primary school we are talking now, and even the early part of the this thing up to 9 years, you realize that the mandate of that is based with local government, state, but education being in the federal government also must have to complement, and it's complementing doing that. I can recall when I was in education, we have intervened in many different schools under the local government and the state to ensure that more infrastructure were constructed. And I think I was here one time, you have also shown a lot of this thing that has been done. So we are not just saying that that's school feeding program, the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying that is the only program it's doing in education. No. While we are looking at the nutrition, to improve their nutritional capacity, as a medical doctor, I know that myelination of the brain and many other that will improve comprehension, understanding, critical thinking, has to do with nutrition. So the president now saying, okay, let's make it better by complementing.
All right, Honorable Minister, let's get to Engineer Umar Bindera. And I would like him to throw more light on what he talked about earlier, talking about the fact that the social register was properly crafted, the Empower program is properly documented with faces and digital representation of the people who benefit from these programs. I would like you to speak to critics who say that the impact of this program has not really been felt. Because, I mean, if you look at the statistics of those who are poor in Nigeria, it has improved. It didn't decrease despite these programs. So tell us, why are we not feeling the impact? Why is the number of those who are poor, not reducing? If you say that, the people who benefit from these programs are traceable.
Thank you very much. You see, it's very easy to criticize, but it's okay. Criticizing hopefully will get things better by people who are listening, adjusting, and doing better things. Now, you see, the whole social nature of all programs, this is not new. NSIP is not new in Nigeria. Abacha did FIP, Family Economic Advancement Program. It's exactly the same thing. After Abacha, when Abdul Salam came, he continued that, but when President Obasanjo came, he first of all did a very light poverty elevation program, but he ended up with NAPEP. It's exactly the same thing. Then after President Obasanjo, Yar'Adua and Jonathan, if you could remember, established UWIN and SURE-P. It's exactly the same thing. And then President Buhari started the NSIP, and it's sustained by this government because it's a government of continuation. So and you learn, you must learn. Normally you do not get 100%. Even as a student sitting in a class being taught every day by your lecturer, you don't get 100%. You probably start getting 60, and then you get 70, and you get better. And I can tell you NSIP, I was involved for some few years, but just pick the cash transfer. It used to be cash on the table. You can't 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira. You give a woman, she greets you, and she will go. She is the caregiver. She had an identity card. That was also only the identity card. But by the time we left, we saw the problem of that. We were very lucky. There were no armed robbers that came and killed people to carry the money, nothing like that. It graduated gradually until we got ATM cards to literally every caregiver. They had an account, they have an ATM, and they understood. That alone has changed their lives to access other things because they have an account. There are impacts here and there, but there are problems too. Just like the Honorable Minister is saying, yes, some people can squeeze through the system, but when you are very strong with your monitor and evaluation, you can pick these people, and that is how you improve. Empower. Honorable Minister is right too. You too, you are right too. There are people who are not supposed to be on the register. They have a job somewhere, and they are registering. But you see, that process has to be with the program of, if you are a civil servant, you are in a register somewhere that it will pick your name up. And we started picking these things up. And so the learning curve is a systematic learning curve until you get better and better and better. There are people who will collect. They are vulnerable, they are poor, and they are graduates. They are given N-Power and to teach in the primary school of their community. They will not stay there. We go monitoring. We ask, the headmaster will say, we've not seen this man for nearly 3 weeks now, and we take action. You will get that. There is no way you can, all these people will go to the school, will go to the healthcare, will go and advise farmers as you designed. That is the merits of social intervention. School feeding. We have caught in Nasarawa State here, the focal person was because we did not have the list of the students. And remember, the students you have today as class 1, next year they will be in class 2, next year they will be in class 3, and by the time they pass class 3, they will expire. So every year you have to be, so we were documenting the schools. We have caught schools where there is connivance to increase the number, and we were paying this directly. But the merit of NSIP is that all these payments are done to accounts. There's nobody. The cook is paid in their account. The aggregator who is collecting the food is paid in their account. So it's very easy to catch people. N-Power, every single beneficiary is paid in their account. There's nothing like I call you, I pay you, and you give me something. Same thing with JIP. All the beneficiaries are paid in their account. So there are foundations and there are lessons that we have learned. But certainly when you reform these things and you jump very quickly, you may lose the merits of experience in the past. And that is why partnering with the state, that is where the ministry should concentrate. There is politics in the states. There is all sorts of sentiments in the state. If you're not very closely looking at that, you will have problems. So that has to be strong. But the federal government should not have staff at the state level. You must build up the partnership to ensure that the whole state system is working at pace or at par with the federal system. Then it can work. But these are things. But finally, before you stop me, I want the Honorable Minister also to start thinking about resources. This is very expensive. This 30 whatever is not going to do it. It's very expensive. That is why you must be able to be part of the what we call the service-wide vote system. Otherwise, it's impossible to do. This is very, very, very expensive. So this is something that the Honorable Minister, and I'm sure you are thinking about it, should think more to make it a smoothly flowing program for Nigerians.
Dr. Umar Bindre, thank you very much for your comments. I think one of the biggest criticisms of the programs, whatever you call it, from before now and now, is the issue of transparency and accountability. And it's something I would like us to dig more into when we return from this break. Please don't go away.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening, but that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
This Sunday, live on Sporty TV. Valencia versus Leganés. Watch live on Sporty TV.
Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
All right, many thanks for staying with us. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and we have been discussing the 2025 social investment programs. And just before we went on break, I was hinting, Honorable Minister, that the biggest challenge that I see, the biggest criticism of these programs that I have heard from people is the seemingly lack of transparency. For instance, if you say you are going to ask people who the poorest in the community is, who the most vulnerable is, many don't agree that that is scientific enough and sustainable. That's one. And then the state coordinators that are appointed, how committed are they to the cause of alleviating poverty, the cause of pulling people out of poverty? I have poor people in my village. I'm not aware if they are receiving any. I don't know if Yenre has, and all of that. So going round, how do you intend to put a check on this and improve the process just to ensure that the aims that you seek to achieve at the end of the day does not come to naught?
Well, thank you very much. Let me thank my co-discussant on the this thing, and also to respond to some few issues. Quite all right. I quite agree with him. Social investment program is a costly undertaking globally, not only in Nigeria. You understand? And that's why when the act was drafted, it opened up other opportunities for the both ministry and the NSPA to see how you can work together to mobilize resources from different sources. And it is in that effort, the homegrown school, National Homegrown School Feeding Program, we have gone far to start collaborating with philanthropists in the country. And I think just a few days I was at Sangaya School in Jere local government of Kaduna State, where we flag off a collaboration between NSPA through the ministry and the AMA Foundation. And it's really a very good collaborations. The school really need a lot of things in terms of rehabilitations. So Kaduna State was there, a lot of rehabilitation will be done by the school, by the state government. So also the AMA Foundation has gone ahead to do much more apart from giving food to the students. And they have gone ahead to give at least twice daily meals to every student. As at that time, I think we have a count of 785 students in that Sangaya school. And state government, Kaduna State government is also putting effort to see how much it can also, because with that fund, 2 square meal, the chairman has agreed whose is his responsibility to employ more teachers to the school. And I think the commissioner told me they have gone far in that. State government is coming to fence the school. We are going to provide some furniture to the school. And then the local kitchen that was used before, the AMA Foundation has gone to erect another modern this thing, and they have already sunk a borehole so that everywhere there will be enough water that we can ensure hygiene in the district. So this is what we are going. And we have also opened up to average Nigerians to ensure that National Social Investment Program is just something like, to say, National Health Insurance Authority, of which I supervised when I was in the
Ministry of Health.
When I was in the National Assembly as a chairman of the Committee on Healthcare Services. Each of them have a provisions that individual can come, collaborate, give in his resources, and then he can be informed information timely on how it is done. And he has the right to come and say where we were, and record will be shown to him. And that's what we are doing with the AMA Foundation. And there are a lot of this in Ogu and other foundation that we are going into agreement with them. This is to see how can every Nigerian be his own brother keeper. You understand? And as we said, quite all right, there is no disagreement world over. Social investment intervention are just a stopgap. They are not meant to be permanent. So you understand? You understand? If you allow it to be permanent, and then luckily for us also, what are the major issues that have made poverty to be worst in Nigeria? The major issue as of today is the breakdown of chain that we used to have in the last 10 to 20 years, most especially in the northern part of the country. What is that chain, agricultural chain? A farmer will go to his farm today, after harvesting, reserve what he's going to eat and take care of his some other issues, and then reserve what he will use in the next farming season, and then sell the others and then buy cattle, goats, rams, and rear them, so that when the next rainy season comes, he will sell out those cattle and then invest in the season, in the following year's farming. You understand? But then when we have the issue of insecurity banditry, the cattle they have to be used for the next year was rustled away. So they are left with that. Overnight, when there is nothing to rustle, they are come and push away food and they are distant. And they became internally displaced persons. And that's this credibly, and we must accept that reality. One of the major successes of the president is ensuring that security is returning into this country.
All right.
I'm telling you, I'm coming. That's this people may doubt that. But you see, ask somebody from Kaduna State. When last was cow sold in Binigwari market. You tell you in the last 15 years, they have never sold a cow. But as of today, in the last few weeks ago, month ago, the governor went there, they opened the market, and now this is one of the largest cattle market in Nigeria. The road before. A lot of people in the last 2-3 years, when you ask them to follow the Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Funtua, Zamfara, Sokoto, will not venture into that. This December, New Year, and all other December that we have, a lot of people use that distance.
All right.
So you see, these are issues. So we thought that the compounding factors are gradually being distant. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, I was in the Chad Republic with the governor of Borno State, Professor Zulu, to see how we can patriote under their own, not under any duress, voluntarily. They wrote to the president and they wrote to the governor that they want to go back to Nigeria because their area is now habitable. And the governor has made, through also the program, contribution program, and this made adequate arrangement where they can be settled in terms of housing. They want to come back to Nigeria. But based on international convention, we must have a tripartite agreement between the Chad Republic, the Nigeria, and the National Human Rights, the National United Nations High Commission for Refugees, so that they can be safely assured that they can come back. So, and we have signed that. And we are expecting next few days over 7,790 refugees
will return
back to Nigeria.
What are the plans, to resettle these people back, into the country? And I'd like you to also speak about monitoring and evaluation. Those who speak for these, national social evaluation and monitoring and evaluation of, the programs under the National Social Investment.
Okay.
Some say that that's like the main issue. The programs being credible, but monitoring, evaluation lacking is the reason why it has not met its target. What are the plans for this year? What are the things you intend to do differently, just so that whatever it is that you're targeting, actually meets its desired impact?
Yes. Well, let me just conclude what I want to just tell you that there are a lot of plans in terms of where they are allocated, their accommodation, their plan for their children to be integrated into school, to plan to give them where they can go into their normal businesses in terms of farming, fishing. And most area, Baga is one of the largest area in terms of fish production. That you can't argue that in Nigeria. Is the major producer of fish, and definitely because security has been provided right now, they are ready to come back, and definitely we are working together with National Commission for Refugee, Migrant, and Internally Displaced Person, which is also a parastatal of our ministry, to ensure that all those have been taken care of. We are working with other. It's not a one day thing. The immigration, the agricultural ministry, and many other. It is a multinational. National and multinational collaboration to ensure that they are settled. And then as soon as we finish that, because the place is now habitable, we are moving to to Cameroon and also Niger Republic, so that we can get Nigerians back to their own distance. And then nobody is forced. It's voluntary. Yeah. And we have also made arrangement to receive spontaneous returnees. Who are these spontaneous returnees? Returnees. They're on their own, they feel, without even telling the government, the United Nations Human Rights High Commission for Refugee, or even they are coming back to Nigeria. So when they come, we must have, the International Convention has mandated that we must have already made plan to receive them. And all this have been put into consideration. They are also in the MOU you have signed. Now coming to the, yes.
Before we go further into the resettlement of those coming in from Chad, we had both raised the issue of monitoring and evaluation. Whether can you vouch for the programs being evenly spread across the country as it is?
You see, when you use the evenly spread, it becomes a serious issue. You see, in social investment, it's equity, not equality. You understand? Equity, not equality. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between equality and equity. Mm-hmm. For example, if you say equality, all households, whether you are rich, you are poor, you must be given. But equity, you find who is the person that is as low
across the country, not parts of the country.
Yes, across the country, and then you give them.
Yes.
You understand? So that is going to be done, and that is also this. It has no, the Act has specified it clearly, no religious, tribal, or any inclination bias. As far as you are Nigerian, you are poor or vulnerable, you are expected to be there. And that's why we said, you see, the whole problem of Nigeria is issue of applying the rules, which we are working along with the Justice Ministry, and we have been given directives. The rules must be applied. What is that rule? If you are not qualified to find yourself in register and you manage to get yourself, you must get that money refunded. And then I also mentioned,
how many people have refunded monies?
Yeah?
How many people have refunded monies?
This I'm saying, you are not asking us what are we going to do.
Have we had such cases?
We have never had such cases. But now this is what I'm going digging. And this is what we want to ensure that is done. You understand? So that at least if you know you are catch, you'll be subjected to rules. And then listen. And then we also closely monitor. If you are given and you have qualified to exit the system, will automatically exited you because you are no more in that condition now. So that we listen. Then on our own, we have a strong monitoring evaluation unit in the ministry that will have now national supervision. But you see, the issue is this national edition. A lot of things is being rested with the state coordinating offices who are to do a lot. And what we are going to do with a lot of multinational organizations, see how can we improve their capacity and to ensure that when those offices are going to be these officers in charge must be free of political bias in terms of nomination. In all, you have to be computer literate because you are going to deal with data. And you are giving somebody who cannot even start computer to run and be the state coordinating this. The learning curve for him to even understand the system is good enough to hamper the progress of the.
That's why I was asking earlier if it's just another appointment or these people are committed to the cause.
For the state government to appoint them, they are committed. You are committed, and we are going to do. Where we find that we are not based on our monitoring and evaluation, you are not competent to handle the office. As people who are assuring quality assurance, we make recommendation to the governor because we cannot remove, but it's not meeting up with the demand.
Many thanks, Honorable Minister. We're about to round off this conversation because of time. We'd like to get to Engineer Umar Bindura now. We'd like, in 60 seconds, your recommendations, what you think the ministry can do differently, what you expect from Nigerians just so that the National Social Investment Programs are successful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think your colleague raised an issue on transparency and accountability and fairness. You see, the key things that you have to pick to be able to just naturally radiate this is that data, you must have data. It's good that the ministers are both data people, and therefore you must be ICT savvy. If you don't know how to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and so on and so forth, you cannot do this job. And you must engage staff that has capacity and digital energy. Otherwise, people will waste your time. And you must have people who are committed and they're prepared to move and be very creative. If you employ a lot of ajebotas based on your sentiment of this one is the child of Senate President, this one, you need a job, they will not go to these communities. They will not go to these villages. They like hotels. You need staff that are flexible. They can move to anywhere. And I can tell you, Honorable Minister, you need people with not just the analytical capacity, but presentation. Regular presentation. Every time you have management meeting, the coordinator must come and graphically present you what is happening. And then you have to have very close, close and intense monitor and evaluation. We had independent monitors. If you said the state office should monitor, they will give you wrong results. If you say federal should go to the state, it will be very, very unwieldy. In fact, you are not going to get it. You must utilize the NGOs, the young people in the community, these people who are criticizing you, those people who are writing everything, engage them as monitors. Go anywhere you like, see the data, verify and tell us. That has to be intense. You have to have very close and solid partnership, particularly with the state governments. Leave them to appoint the coordinator, whoever they like. But once the man is coordinated, appointed, hold him, train him, build his capacity, give him the culture of your working. He must be digital, he must work very hard, and so on and so forth. And then you have to have intense partnership with the ministries, departments, and agencies at the federal level. You are from education. You know UBEC has something to do with NSIP. Primary health care is in health. They have something to do with primary. NDE and so on are in trade and investment. They have something to do with social investment. ITF and all these agencies, they are looking at you. They don't like you when they are pinching their mandate. Without their partnership, you will not move very fast. So you have to create a very solid partnership base. And then you must have very regular forum, conferences, workshops, roundtable to tell the public. Invite NTA, invite everybody, say it. And lastly, you must train and retrain your staff. This thing does not happen automatically. And as my brother said, fair sharing. When we were doing, for example, every program we do, there is sharing formula. When we were doing GIF, for example, we share it on 4 indices. Equal distribution. 15% of the total is divided by 37. Every state must get a figure. Then we did it on poverty incidence. We went to National Bureau of Statistics. We said, give us the poverty incidence of every state. Because this program is for poverty, you see that Sokoto has 88% and Lagos has 43%. So on that, when you use 20% to share, Lagos will get small, Sokoto will get high. But then you come to population. We go to Population Commission to get the figures of population. In this regard, Kano and Lagos will get higher, and then number of local government. So there must be
all right,
Dr.
Umar Bindiri, I'm sorry we have to let you go because we've completely run out of time. So we thank you very much, Dr. Umar Bindiri, social investment analyst, founder, CEO Bindiri Knowledge Center International in Yola, Adamawa State. And
I thought before we sign off, the minister would give his last
well,
word.
let's sign him off first. And he was also national coordinator of the NSIP 2020 to 2023 in Adamawa State, former SSG as well. We thank you very much for your time and contributions on the program. Honorable Minister, we have just about 60 seconds. Well,
I just want to assure Nigerians that one of the major cardinal of the 8-point agenda of Mr. President is the eradication of poverty. And the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Poverty Reduction, and its various parastatals are geared towards achieving that. We also ensure that there is transparency and accountability. Things will not be done where we create confusion or suspicion. And we will be ready to listen to criticisms, constructives, and we'll be ready to engage partnership and collaboration from different, both governmental and non-governmental, so that all together we can move forward. But I must say that Nigerians should also realize, most especially the graduates, job bias must be eradicated if we want to eradicate poverty.
All right.
Holding a degree will not make value except you add skills.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dr.
Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Honorable Minister of State, Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. We wish you the very best, and of course we hope Nigerians feel the impact of all these initiatives. Many thanks for being our guest.
Thank you.
All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank God it's Friday. I'm here anyway, John.
And I'm Victor, as you enjoy your weekend.